America has a talent for big ideas, and an even bigger talent for turning some of them into cautionary tales. Every avoidable tragedy begins the same way: a little confidence, a little shortcut, and one tiny decision that opens a trapdoor. 33 stories reminders that the line between "I got this" and "I'm gone" is thinner than a spark. Number 1. It was one of those Phoenix afternoons where the sun feels like it's trying to cook you alive. Most people stayed inside. Not this guy. He thought it was the perfect time to grill. He dragged out the old charcoal kettle, wheeled a tall propane patio heater closer, and laughed to himself. Just a little more warmth for the shade. The heater had a loose fitting. Gas leaked, low and quiet, pooling around his legs. He didn't smell a thing. He flicked his lighter, leaned in, and whoomph! A giant flash, loud enough to make neighbors jump. He stumbled back, knocked over the grill, and watched hot coals spill onto the wooden deck. Now he was chasing fire with a garden hose that barely sprayed. By the time firefighters showed up, the deck was scorched, the grill was toast, and his wife was furious. Everyone else called it what it was: preventable. Number 2, Utah's desert is full of tall red rock towers called hoodoos. They look like something out of a movie. A woman wanted the perfect selfie with one. Her friend stayed in the car with the AC blasting. She promised she'd be back in 2 minutes. At the rim, the sand looked solid. It wasn't. She stepped back for just one more shot, heel hit air, and down she went. Her phone caught one last blur of sky before it all ended. The park rangers later wrote "loss of footing." The news called it a selfie accident. The canyon didn't care. It had been waiting hundreds of years for someone to take that one wrong step. Number 3, late night in a Dallas warehouse, and 2 guys thought forklifts would make great jousting horses. They taped pool noodles on the forks, hit record on their phones, and revved up the engines. The first run was clumsy fun. The second run, not so much. One guy bumped the wrong lever. A rack of shrink-wrapped TVs leaned, and then thousands of pounds of boxes came crashing down. They bailed too late. Concrete floors don't forgive. Their big TikTok idea never made it online, but the security cameras caught everything. Number 4, Klaus was running late to his own birthday party. He was flying down the highway when blue police lights lit up behind him. His stomach sank. A ticket could cost him his new license. Panic hit. Instead of pulling over, he told his buddy in the passenger seat, "We gotta switch seats!" Now, at 60 miles an hour, both of them scrambled, neither one steering. For 3 seconds, the car drove itself straight into the path of a semi-truck. The party never started. Klaus's brilliant idea to dodge a ticket turned into the last mistake he'd ever make. Number 5. In the Florida Keys, Antoine was a free diver. He could hold his breath longer than most people can sit still. On the day he tried to break his own record, he slipped under the water, followed the rope down, and touched the tag at over 150 feet. But the pressure messed with his brain. Divers call it the rapture of the deep. It feels like being drunk and happy. Down there, Antoine thought he was finally where he belonged. He let go of the rope and started swimming deeper, smiling. His safety team waited for him at the surface. He never came back. Number 6. On a North Carolina beach, 2 cousins found a giant metal cylinder half buried in the sand, a torpedo. They figured the Army must have gutted it years ago. To them, it looked like free scrap metal. They dragged it behind the dunes, fired up a cutting torch, and went to work. The metal screamed. The fuel inside caught, and the empty torpedo turned into a rocket for one final ride. The blast wasn't huge by military standards, but for 2 guys standing right there, it was everything. They learned too late. If the ocean gives you old weapons, the smartest tool you can use is a phone. Number 7. Arthur lived in a quiet Seattle suburb. His life was routine. Same breakfast, same walk, same newspaper folded just right. So when he found a plain brown box on his porch with no return address, it felt like the universe trying to mess with him. To his credit, Arthur didn't kick it, didn't open it. He carefully loaded it into his car and drove straight to the police station. The officers did what they're trained to do, cleared the lobby, called the bomb squad, and set up the robot. But Arthur's patience ran out fast. Watching from outside, he muttered, "They're dragging this out. It's probably just junk mail." Then, in a move no one saw coming, he ducked under the tape, brushed past an officer, and grabbed the package right off the examination table. "Come on, let's just open it already," he said, shaking it hard like it was a Christmas present. The bomb squad didn't have time to shout. The device inside was real. It didn't like being jostled. Arthur started the day smart. He ended it by proving why impatience is just as dangerous as explosives. Number 8. Frank rolled into a convenience store in Ohio. He was in a wheelchair and he had a plan. He cruised down the beer aisle, grabbed a 24-pack, and balanced it on his lap like a trophy. He figured nobody would stop him. Who would dare question a guy in a chair? He made it to the automatic doors, head held high, already tasting his victory beer. What he forgot to factor in was the steep concrete ramp leading down to the lot. The heavy load shifted his center of gravity. Halfway down, the chair started wobbling. Then it picked up speed. Frank fought the wheels, but the case of beer toppled. The chair pitched forward, throwing him headfirst onto the pavement. Cans burst everywhere, spraying foam across the lot like a cruel celebration. Frank wanted a slick getaway. What he got was asphalt, sirens, and the most expensive 24-pack in history. Number 9. Virginia has some stunning old railroad bridges. Kevin thought one of them would be perfect for his DIY bungee stunt. He measured carefully, 70 feet from railing to rocks. He ordered a 60-foot cord online, stretched it across the floor of his apartment, and smiled. 10 feet to spare. On the day of the jump, his heart was pounding, but his math felt solid. He tied the cord to his ankles, leapt, and for 60 feet, he was pure joy, flying, screaming, alive. Then the cord did exactly what it was designed to do. Stretch. 10 feet of safety disappeared in an instant. Kevin slammed into the rocky riverbed before the cord could snap him back. The math wasn't wrong. The logic was. Number 10. George was mowing his lawn in Georgia on a sunny Saturday. He passed under a big oak tree and didn't notice the gray paper ball hanging from one branch. A hornet nest. The mower's vibration made the hornets restless. A few scouts buzzed out. George swatted at them like they were gnats. That swat was all it took. The hive exploded into a black and yellow cloud. Thousands of stingers, thousands of targets. One man. Neighbors later said it sounded like he was being chased by a chainsaw. The swarm didn't stop until George did. In suburbia, most wars are fought over fences and noise complaints. George picked a fight with something that knew how to win. Number 11. In the Oregon mountains, a winter storm knocked out power. Ethan and his family were freezing in their little cabin. He thought he had the perfect solution: drag the propane grill inside. He cracked a window just a few inches and told his wife, "It'll be fine. We just need to take the edge off." The blue flame flickered, cooking more than food. Carbon monoxide filled the room, invisible and deadly. They wrapped themselves in blankets, comforted by the warmth. By morning, the storm had cleared. Outside, the forest glittered with fresh snow. Inside, silence. It wasn't fire that got them. It was gas that made no sound, no smell, no warning. Number 12. Spring floods turned a Missouri underpass into a brown canal. Monica saw other SUVs powering through and figured hers could too. "It's high enough," she said, easing into the water. Halfway through, the engine coughed, then died. The current pressed against the doors, making them impossible to open. Water climbed past the windows, dark and fast. Panic set in. Rescue crews later said it happens all the time. People think their car is a boat, but once the engine stalls, it's just a box filling with water. Monica learned that lesson in the worst way. Number 13. 3 college friends in Texas wanted to clear weeds fast. Gasoline and a lighter seemed too messy, so they invented a weed flamethrower. A leaf blower, a metal pipe, and a jug of gas. The first burst sent flames 10 feet into the air. They cheered. The second burst tilted the pipe toward the jug. Fire found fuel. The backyard turned into a blast zone. By the time the fire department showed, the shed was gone, the fence was gone, and so was their bright idea. Internet fame was the plan. A cautionary headline was the reality. Number 14, Yellowstone National Park, late afternoon. A black bear grazed near the tree line, far from the road. A tourist couldn't resist. She stepped out of her car, phone raised. "It's far away," she told her family. She didn't notice the slick snow beneath her feet until it gave way, dropping her into a hidden creek. The water was freezing, rushing, merciless. She scrambled, but her body locked up in minutes. The bear never even looked at her. The real predator was the cold. Number 15. Los Angeles never really sleeps, but at 4 in the morning it feels like the city is holding its breath. The streets were mostly empty, lights blinking at intersections with no cars to stop. Somewhere above all that, a YouTuber named Kyle was setting up his ultimate sunrise stream. He wasn't interested in permits, safety, or common sense. He wanted views. The target was a half-finished high-rise downtown, the kind wrapped in scaffolding and crowned with a construction crane. He told his subscribers, "I'm going up. You're coming with me." Comments lit up with fire emojis and dares. The red dot of live glowed in the corner of his screen, proof he was chasing fame in real time. Kyle scaled the fence, sneakers slipping on gravel. He swung himself onto the first ladder, one hand holding his phone, the other clinging to steel. Each rung clanged in the darkness, the city's hum below mixing with the sound of his own heavy breathing. The live chat scrolled, "Don't look down! Bro, you're crazy! Freak! This is epic!" The dopamine hit of strangers cheering him on pushed him higher. Sweat dripped even in the cool pre-dawn air. He muttered, "Almost there, almost there." By the time he reached the crane's crossbeam, the horizon was bleeding purple and orange. He straddled the narrow walkway, panned the phone slowly across downtown. Skyscrapers looked like toys, freeways like veins glowing with headlights. "This is it!" he shouted, voice shaking with adrenaline. Then it happened. His phone, slick with sweat, slipped from his fingers. The live stream tilted, catching a glimpse of sky and steel as it spun downward. Instinct took over. He lunged, trying to grab it mid-air. One bad step on slick steel, one heartbeat where balance didn't belong to him anymore. His arms windmilled, sneakers squealed, and then there was nothing but air. The scream was short, cut off by the rush of wind. Viewers watched helplessly as the stream ended in a blur, frozen on a perfect frame of the Los Angeles sunrise. Comments flooded in, first with laughing emojis, then with confusion, then with silence. Nobody realized until later that they'd watched a death in real time. Down on the street, the phone shattered, but survived enough to keep recording, screen glowing in a spiderweb of cracks. The city woke up, workers poured in, traffic swelled. Kyle didn't wake up with it. He had wanted the ultimate shot. What he got was his last. Number 16, 4th of July in Ohio. Uncle Troy had been drinking since noon, bragging about his expert fireworks skills. By evening, the bucket of used mortars sat by the grill. Troy thought it'd be funny to relight one just to be sure. He leaned over, flicked his lighter, and peered down the tube. The fuse wasn't dead. It sparked to life right in his face. The firework went off at ground level, scattering sparks across the deck. Guests screamed, kids cried, and Troy proved the oldest fireworks rule in the book. Never ever look down the barrel. Number 17, Indiana, in July, sticky heat hanging over the backyard. A dad wanted to fix the flagpole rope before guests arrived for his son's birthday. The pulley had jammed at the top. No problem, he thought. He dragged over a stepladder, set it on top of a picnic table, and told his kid, "Hold the ladder steady, buddy." The kid held it, small hands gripping aluminum rungs, like that made a difference. Dad climbed, wobbling, reaching higher and higher until his head nearly scraped the flagpole finial. "Almost got it," he grunted, tugging at the rope. The problem wasn't the knot. The problem was gravel under the picnic table legs. The ground shifted, the ladder leaned, and gravity whispered, "My turn." The crash was loud enough to send birds scattering from the trees. Guests showed up minutes later to balloons tied to the fence, a cake on the porch table, and sirens in the distance. Dad had tried to fix the flag. Instead, he became the cautionary tale told under it. Number 18. Arkansas riverbanks after heavy rain look calm on top but hide chaos underneath. Two buddies went noodling for catfish, the old southern trick of sticking your arm in underwater holes and yanking fish out barehanded. They found a spot and shoved their arms deep into the mud. One man grinned, thinking he had a big fish. Then the fish bit down hard, bone-snapping hard. Maybe it was a giant snapping turtle, maybe just a log crushing with the current. Either way, panic surged. One buddy slipped, mud turned the bank into a slide, and the river swallowed them both. People later said, "They were good swimmers." But rivers don't care. Once the current has you, swimming is just flailing in a stronger language. Number 19, Phoenix backyard pool party. Someone rented a giant inflatable waterslide and set it up on the grass. Anchors? "We'll stake it later," one guy laughed, climbing up with two kids behind him. The desert wind picked up like it always does in the afternoon. A gust slammed into the slide, caught the wide vinyl surface, and lifted it like a sail. The slide tilted, rose, and tipped over the fence with three people still on it. They crashed into the neighbor's cinderblock wall. The slide deflated in seconds, hissing like it was ashamed of itself. Ambulances came. The party ended in silence. The lesson wasn't about fun. It was about shortcuts and how wind always finds them. Number 20, Nevada desert, mid-July. A man wanted drone footage of an abandoned ghost town. He packed his drone, a single bottle of water, and zero common sense. "It's just a short hike," he told himself. "And it's a dry heat." He walked out at noon. The worst time. By mile 2, sweat had stopped dripping. A bad sign. By mile 3, his vision tunneled. The drone flew fine, catching perfect wide shots of empty streets and collapsed roofs. By mile 5, he collapsed too. Rescue teams later found the drone footage saved on his card. Gorgeous views of a town long dead. His mistake was thinking he wasn't just as fragile under that sun. Number 21, Florida Panhandle. A guy discovered an old stone well on his property, the kind covered with moss and a rotten board. He wanted to know how deep it went. His brilliant test? He lit a match and dropped it in. At first, there was silence. Then the well roared back at him. Methane gas had built up inside over decades. The match lit it like a fuse. A column of fire shot upward, catching him full in the face. Neighbors said it looked like a flamethrower blast. He didn't have time to scream before the flames did their work. There's a reason miners carried canaries. He carried only arrogance. Number 22. New Orleans in late summer means heat, sweat, and creaky old houses where nothing works the way it should. Arthur, not the package guy, another Arthur, had a sink that gurgled like it was alive. He didn't want to pay a plumber. Instead, he opened the cabinet and grabbed every cleaner under the sink. First bleach, then ammonia, then some off-brand drain gel he found behind the mop bucket. He poured it all together like he was making soup. The fumes started rising almost instantly, sharp and sour, making his eyes water. Instead of stepping back, he bent lower, face close to the drain. He coughed once, then twice. The chemical cocktail hit his lungs like a sledgehammer. He staggered, tried to stand, but his knees buckled. Neighbors said they smelled something awful seeping through the walls before they called 911. By the time help arrived, the little house was quiet, sink still bubbling faintly. Arthur had turned cleaning day into his last science experiment. Number 23. Kansas storm season is a show people can't resist. One guy figured he knew better than the weather. He parked his truck under an overpass when the tornado sirens screamed. He thought the thick concrete would protect him, but overpasses don't protect, they funnel. Wind roared through the tunnel, picking up speed, throwing debris like knives. His truck rocked side to side as shingles, branches, and scrap metal blasted past. Then the funnel itself roared overhead. The truck flipped, slamming into the embankment. Rescuers found him later pinned inside, crushed by his own false shelter. Tornado safety isn't about finding cover wherever you can. It's about knowing the wrong cover can be worse than none at all. Number 24. Brooklyn rooftops are made for summer parties. One group thought a kiddie pool would be the perfect Instagram backdrop. They dragged it to the roof's edge, filled it with hose water, and packed themselves in. 10 adults, laughing, drinking, snapping photos. Water weighs a lot. Joists under that roof weren't designed for it. The first creak was ignored. The second creak was drowned out by music. Then came the crack. The roof buckled. The pool flipped, sending water and people pouring onto the fire escape below. Screams echoed down the alley, mixed with shouts of "Call 911!" The building inspector later shook his head. This roof was built for pigeons, not pools. The hashtags never made it online. Number 25. Arizona desert, family farm. It was supposed to be a happy day, a gender reveal. The family wanted to make it extra special, so instead of cutting a cake, they filled a target with explosive chalk, blue or pink dust, all in one big bang. Everyone gathered with phones out. Dad lined up the rifle, pulled the trigger, and the blast was bigger than anyone expected. The target shredded. The surrounding dry grass lit instantly. Within minutes, the wind carried fire across acres of brittle desert brush. Helicopters, firefighters, evacuations, all because of one bullet, one bad idea. The baby was born healthy. The land wasn't. Number 26, Seattle apartment balcony, Christmas Eve. A man decided to hang holiday lights at the very last minute. Too cold to drag out a proper ladder, he rolled his office chair outside. Just 1 second, he told his girlfriend as he climbed on top. String lights tangled around his arm. The wheels slipped the moment he leaned sideways. The chair shot out like it was on ice. He hit the railing, flipped, and disappeared over the side. The lights dangled down after him, blinking red and green against the dark. Neighbors later said they thought it was part of the show. It wasn't. Number 27. Minnesota winters look calm, white, and still, until you test the ice wrong. A fisherman drove his pickup straight onto the frozen lake to warm up in comfort, while he jigged a hole nearby. He revved the heater, sipped coffee, and trusted the smooth surface under his tires. But ice talks, if you listen. It started with faint pops, then a long groan under the hood. He ignored it. The hood dipped, then the windshield spiderwebbed as water gushed in. Seatbelts suddenly felt like shackles. He clawed at the handle, shoved against the door, but water pressure pinned it shut. By the time rescuers found the truck, it sat half submerged, headlights still glowing faintly in the dark water. The lake had claimed another overconfident driver who thought "it looks solid" meant it's safe. Number 28. Downtown sidewalk in Chicago. A vape enthusiast kept spare lithium batteries loose in his pocket, jumbled with coins and keys. He figured, it's fine, they're just batteries. Heat built slowly at first. He slapped his thigh, thinking it was nerves. Then sparks flared. The pocket turned into a furnace. He panicked, yanking at his jeans in broad daylight, trying to climb out of his own pants. Onlookers screamed and laughed at the same time, not sure if it was comedy or tragedy. The batteries didn't care. They vented with fire until denim and skin melted together. All he wanted was a smoke break. What he got was an ambulance ride and a very public reminder why you never pocket loose power. Number 29, suburban New Jersey. A man hated dandelions more than anything. Weed killer was too slow. He poured gasoline in a neat circle around his yard, proud of his handiwork. Then, like a magician, he flicked a match. The circle caught instantly, a glowing halo around his grass. He smiled for a second. Then the wind picked a side. Flames licked the fence, leapt to the shed, then reached for the neighbor's trees. By the time firefighters arrived, half the block was in danger. His lawn was gone, his fence gone, his pride in ashes. The only thing left standing was the fact that shortcuts are often just accelerants in disguise. Number 30. Two teenagers in Tennessee loved exploring storm drains. Concrete tunnels echoed like haunted caves, and after a thunderstorm, the roar was even cooler. They grabbed flashlights and went in, ignoring the forecast. Rain arrived sooner than expected. Water funneled down the tunnels, a harmless trickle at first, then a shove, then a roaring wall. The boys tried to scramble back, but the ladder rungs were too far, the tunnels too slick. By the time rescuers searched the system, all they found was two flashlights jammed against a grate, beams still shining weakly. Storm drains aren't caves. They're rivers waiting for the right moment. Number 31. Seattle Christmas Parade Prep. Volunteers built floats inside a warehouse, stringing lights and hammering wood. Someone wheeled a gas-powered generator into a closed garage for just an hour of work. The door was down to keep sawdust out. Carbon monoxide started filling the air, invisible and fast. The music thumped, people painted. Nobody noticed their heads growing heavy. One worker collapsed, then another. By the time a latecomer opened the door and saw the scene, the float in progress sat quiet, tools still buzzing on the floor. The parade marched on without them. Number 32, Arizona Desert Sky at Dawn. A hobby pilot wanted to impress friends at a desert meetup. He skimmed low over the crowd in a tiny single-engine plane, banking hard, showing off. People cheered, phones out, recording the stunt. One pass wasn't enough. He circled back, lower this time, letting the wings practically scrape the sagebrush. The ground effect magic lifted him, but a sudden thermal dropped a wing. The nose tilted, the engine roared, and then sand rushed up faster than his pride could recover. The crowd got their footage. The pilot got his final stunt. Number 33 Iowa Farm at dusk. A man noticed his grain auger was jammed. He leaned down, scarf still around his neck, muttering, "Just a quick check." He tugged at the clog while the machine still hummed. The scarf slipped, twisted once, then twice. The auger didn't slow. It pulled him in, turning seconds into eternity. By the time anyone reached him, the machine was quiet. Machines don't negotiate. Loose clothing is just a handshake waiting to happen. That's 33 American stories where common sense took the day off and physics, fire, or plain bad luck filled in. Every single one could have been avoided with one small choice. Wait longer, tie tighter, step back, walk away. Now it's your turn. Which one do you think was the dumbest, most avoidable mistake? Drop the number in the comments and tell me why. If your brain cells are still firing after that ride, hit like, hit subscribe, and stick around. Because America never runs out of unbelievable cautionary tales.